Welcome everyone to our early spring quiz. Now, it is
Whee!
February and you might be thinking, "Hey, wait a minute. If it's February, why is it early spring?" We are going to be
Mm.
talking about all of the holidays that have to do with the early spring on the old calendar. And
Ah,
I just want to take a word to talk about the Japanese holiday of Setsubun, which is today. Setsubun is one of my favorite holidays, and many people might think it's ancient. It kind of is on the calendar, but all the customs associated with it really started in the Muromachi and the Edo period, so it's not that ancient. And Mark, do you know what Setsubun is?
no.
You know who this guy is? For those who can't see, or those who are not watching, this is one of the Oni, one of the demons,
Yeah, yeah.
with
Hmm.
his little. It's a red demon who comes
Yeah.
around to the Shinto shrines and other people's houses, and you are meant to throw beans at him. Do you know why, Mark?
Is it something about legumes and and spirits? Is
Ah,
it sort
so
of
yes.
yeah.
So it is a play on words, where the beans are representative of the evil eye. Meh in Japanese is eye.
Okay. Okay.
So you take you say oni wa soto and you throw the beans at the oni, and the oni go "Arr!" and then, and they leave. And it's supposed to be a representative. You're casting out evil, casting out bad things for the year. And
Hmm.
there are many different traditions like this in Japan, but this one is specifically tied to Setsubun, which is either on February 2nd or 3rd,
Okay.
depending on the year, because of the Japanese calendar reform. But Setsubun is supposed to be the beginning. It's the last day of Japanese winter on the old calendar. So you're thinking to yourself, it's kind of weird. It's February. And Japan, half of Japan anyway, is a cold place. Obviously, places like
Hmm.
Akita and the Iwate region, and of course Hokkaido, they're all cold. So how is this a spring holiday? And so too are the other holidays that we're going to talk about right now. Mark,
Okay.
do you have your scoreboard ready?
I do. Oh, Franklinator of your yes.
Thank you very much. So, question one.
Aha.
What is Imbolc?
Um, I think it's a condition that babies get where like, no, no, no. I think it's is it Irish?
Yes, it is very distinctly Irish, yes.
Is it to do with Saint Brigid?
Oh, interesting. We will get there. So
Okay.
I will say yes for now. But
Okay.
what is Imbolc? What is Imbolc?
Uh it's an early spring festival, Michelle.
Fine, give yourself a point, you cheeky little. Imbolc was, I mean, it is now as well, but it was an ancient Irish festival which was held on the 1st of February. But to
Okay.
be quite honest with you, we don't actually know what this holiday was celebrating originally. Because while it is a feast day that's mentioned in Cormac's Glossary or Sonus Cormac, which is ninth century, that's the earliest mention that we have of this.
Hmm.
And it is a holiday that's mentioned in a few later Irish myths as well, medieval Irish myths. None of these things tell us what this holiday was originally about. We are not sure what the word was originally referring to. First mention is in Sanus Cormac of the specific word, Imbolc,
Hmm.
and he claimed that the word had something to do with sheep's milk, but we honestly don't know, and it's actually quite unlikely that that's what it had to do with. This could have been a lambing holiday. Won't say it wasn't, because there are stories that are associated with lambs and this day. But linguistically speaking, it's probably something to do with purification, or uh, from the modern Irish, imbolg, meaning in the womb. So again, maybe something
Okay.
with lambs, maybe something to do with birthing. No idea.
Mm. Mm.
Any idea of what the customs that were originally associated with this holiday before Cormac's time are very unclear. It's all down to speculation.
Okay.
Irish myths, uh, like the Táin Bó Cúailnge, they do say that this was either a lambing festival or something to do with spring,
Hmm.
maybe. But as to how ancient Irish people celebrated it or what they did, we just don't know. There are a few tombs in Ireland aligned with Imbolc, but there are so few of them that we just have no clue how this was celebrated or if there even was any kind of veneration. No idea.
Mm.
I
Okay.
mean, the holiday has now been adopted into neo-pagan calendars as the ancient first day of spring, and there it's associated with various things depending on whether or not you're a Wiccan or whether you're a Celtic Reconstructionist. So it has different meanings. But the original name for the holiday, of what it means, and all of our original associations, we just don't know.
Okay. I, I'm reminded of I have a few friends who are sheep farmers, but one actually, funnily enough, was from Northern Ireland, and they had this thing where whenever lambing season was turning up, her dad would say the lambs, and then they both go Clarice, and just stare out of the window.
That's so good. I love
Yeah,
that so
yeah,
much.
the
That's fantastic.
lambs.
That's fantastic. All right. Question two, Mark, since you
Okay.
asked, who is Bridget?
Uh, now there's this. Well, she's a saint. She's an Irish saint,
Hmm.
and I always get these ones muddled up. Is she linked with a well?
Oh, yes. But she does have, yeah, she does have
Yeah,
holy
I
wells.
think there might be a couple of different wells to do with her.
Hmm.
Uh, was she nobility and killed?
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
So we assume she had to be some kind of nobility because she was Abbess of Kildare, and you can't
Hmm.
get in that position without cash. So maybe here is the thing. The first mention that we have of her comes from a man named Cogitosus, who wrote her first hagiography.
Bless you.
And he wrote it he wrote it around 650 AD, so quite early.
Hmm.
And according to him, Bridget was from Ireland. She was born in 451 AD, died around 524 maybe. And by the early 600, Bridget was widely known as the Abbess of Kildare, and she eventually became known all over the Christian world. She wasn't only known in Ireland. We don't
Mm.
have any writings from Bridget herself, unfortunately, to tell us who she was, unlike St. Patrick, where we do have two of his original writings.
Hmm.
But her hagiography is the earliest Irish saint's life, because remember, St. Patrick was not born in Ireland. But her
Hmm.
hagiography is the earliest Irish saint's life that we have. We don't know much
Mm.
about Cogitosus either, to be quite honest with you, because he was her biographer. But we know that he claims he was a disciple of Kildare, and that's really it.
Mm.
He gathered stories about Bridget. According to him, she was native Irish from Munster. She was part of the upper crust from the Faughart family. Her father was supposedly a king. Again, not sure.
Hmm.
She was possibly the child of a slave. Not sure. But whether her parents were Christian or pagan depends on who's telling the story. Because later on, there was a whole thing with, there's a story about her possibly being born as a pagan and then converting later on, maybe meeting St. Patrick, all that kind of thing. But just in Cogito's original biography, he says that she had many very minor miracle stories attached to her. Like, so, for example, there was a story when she was young. She gave away bacon and butter to people who wanted it, and a dog who was hungry.
And who doesn't?
Yeah,
Who
and she
doesn't?
and mir lo and behold, miracle happened,
Okay.
and whoosh, the bacon and butter was plentiful again. As you do when you're a saint, you go, wow, look at that bacon again, amazing.
You can take your menorah and loaves and fishes, pa. Butter and bacon's where it's at, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. There's
Yeah.
another story of how she replenished all the beer again. Great stuff, amazing.
Hmm.
Um, she also restored a burned loom and a butchered cow back to their original place. Again, amazing, fantastic. She turned bathwater into ale. Amazing, good stuff. And she's said to heal people. And she had a magic cloak that hung on a sunbeam, and much later stories grew to enormous size. And most remarkable of all, though, she is said to have performed a magical abortion for a nun by magicking away the unwanted pregnancy. And this is not a thing that's uncommon in hagiographies, but
Uh-huh.
there was a nun who got pregnant and she put her hand on the womb, and of course the baby went back to God.
Oh.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. And this is not in saints' lives. This is something that actually does happen, and
right.
it's not considered to be a bad thing. There, you are quote unquote sending the baby back to God.
Mm.
And because she preserved the nun's virginity, right? The nun's virginity had to do with having a child rather than this.
Oh. Ah, so the virginity is a one-way street
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense.
in them
Interesting.
days, yeah, it was.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
She was buried at Kildare,
Hmm.
and she named another abbess as her successor, but she was not done. For Cogitosus tells us that after she died, her spirit continued to build the monastery.
Wow.
Yeah, that's she was playing with Legos
Yeah,
even
busy.
after she was gone.
Impressive. Now, one of the symptoms of cogitosis, I believe, is getting one giant green finger.
That's
Sorry,
such a
folks, we,
good
we were
one.
playing with this before we started recording, but yeah, I just looked at it. Oh no, I've got cogitosis. Oh, oh,
You've got cogitosis, which makes you a Yorkshireman.
yeah. I'm not. Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm not long for this world. Oh, get me a flat cap and a stotty. Yeah. So, what's the next question?
Who is Bridget the goddess?
I'm gonna say that we didn't know.
So that's a very interesting point because
Hmm.
the very first mention that we have of Breach the goddess is Sonus Cormac in a different
Yeah.
section, and he mentions them separately. And he says that the goddess is the daughter of the Dachta, or Dachta, however you want to pronounce it. And he goes on to say that she was the goddess of wisdom, admired by poets, that she had two sisters also named Bridget. So we
Hmm.
don't know if she's a triple goddess or that there are actually three different goddesses. But there's one goddess who represented healing, the other who represented smithing. And so she herself represented wisdom. And then he ends the section by saying that there were many goddesses named Bridget.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's about all we know of the original goddess Bridget. Everything else that we have comes from later stories and later sources. So obviously she's mentioned in the Liber Kabbalah.
Hmm.
She's also mentioned in the Time of Colonia. But that is the original mention of Bridget. That's what we have.
Right. Okay.
And he does not conflate the two. He is very clear that they are separate entities. And like I
Hmm.
said, that there are many goddesses that are called Bridget. So is this a name? Is this a
Hmm.
title? What does it
Hmm.
mean? We do not know.
Hmm.
So that's all the original information that we have.
Okay.
So now my question to you, Mark.
Hmm.
If we have a goddess and a saint with the same name
Hmm.
who are maybe venerated on the same day,
Hmm.
which one of them is real?
Whichever one is in your heart.
Yes, essentially, yes, that's true. That's very true. I love Breach. Well, all of them are very near and dear to my heart, which is why I love this subject. But
Hmm.
uh, I asked this question because a lot of Celticists have puzzled over this for ages,
Right.
and there was no idea that they were the same person really until the 19th century. And this is an idea that came up
And
in the tour.
what and yeah, yeah, yeah. Who were around in the 19th century? Who were these people?
Go on, Mark, just say it.
Well, they have so few ideas. I'm just curious. I've never heard of them. The
The
Victorians. Yep.
Victorians
Yep.
and
Yep.
Victorians conflated a lot of things. And
Yep.
in the 19th century, there was an idea that perhaps
Hmm.
that uh, Bridget the saint and Bridget the goddess were the same person or the same entity, I should say.
Okay.
And the only reason that people decided to believe this is that Saint Bridget's Day is on Imbolc.
Hmm.
So in the 19th century, there was a movement for Irish people, obviously, to reclaim their past.
Hmm.
And there were two main factors in making people think that Brigid was appropriated from a pagan goddess. One was Marie-Henri Dabrat's, oh gosh, I can't say the name of this. One of these things was a translation of
Uh-huh.
a 10th century Irish mythological text. And the second one was Maud Gonne, the Irish revolutionary who established the
Yeah.
Inne Hayden, the Daughters of Ireland movement. She adopted both Bridget the goddess and the saint as their patron. And she was really the first person to put them together. Before this, there is no record of anyone thinking that they were the same person. And like I say,
Hmm.
neither Sanus Cormac nor the Cogitosus say that the saint and goddess were in any way related at all.
Right.
Um, and so there's even in the 20th century, there were some people who both thought that Bridget the saint, or the person, was completely made up, that she was never real, and that they invented her to appropriate the everything from the goddess, but there's no proof of that, honestly.
Hmm.
It's all just 20th century speculation, which is based on one passage in Bede. Bede, who doesn't write about the Irish, but he in this context, but he says he talks about the letter from Pope Gregory the First, who led the missions into northwestern Europe, written to our good buddy Mellitus, the first bishop of London.
Ah.
And the letter, which is known as the Epistola Mellitum, Epistola ad Mellitum, claimed that Bishop Mellitus should not destroy pagan temples in his efforts to convert people to Christ, but to put altars to the saints in their place and modify the pagan sacrifices to Christian feasts. Now,
Isn't
there,
that the same as destroying a place of worship? If you go in and you swap out like the idol or whatever for a
this
cross, then
letter was
that's yeah,
really only talking about Anglo-Saxons, and it says
yeah,
nothing about Irish gods or saints.
no,
Um, but while there is some evidence that pagan feasting grounds were taken over by early churches, the
mm,
archaeological evidence for that, which you well know, Mark, is very scant and shows that it actually rarely happened. In
yeah,
England, I believe there are only 33 instances of that, and we have no record of this being done in Ireland whatsoever.
no. And there's lots of people like to make connections with trees and
Oh, would you like to tell people about
wells.
the yew trees, Mark?
Well, it's one of the first things that people will say, isn't it, about churches? If there's a yew tree there, then it was a previously pagan holy site and all this kind of stuff. There's also the idea that Charlemagne led a campaign that came into England briefly to chop down a great big tree that was
Sorry about the
apparently
Donner
being.
Oak, that one?
I can't quite recall
That wasn't in
which
England.
one it was. No, but there was a tree that was apparently. I'm saying this based on conversations with people who liked to be aggrieved on behalf of their fellow pagans. So the actual history they were historians, so the actual history is secondhand in this instance from me. But it's interesting how there's lots of stuff about trees and the idea of Christians taking trees from us, as it were, from
I
your
just want to dispel anybody who might not know that whole idea of yew trees
worshipping
that has
trees.
been long debunked.
Yeah,
And that was, again, another Victorian idea that went
yeah.
nowhere. That was not true. Archaeologically speaking, we know it's not true.
But the
Uh,
Green Man.
Mark, don't no. We are not doing it today. No, we did that already 3 times.
Okay, yes, yes,
I know Lady Raglan had a lot of money, but we know
yep,
that she made up some crap that was not true.
yep.
And no, no, not even. So
We need to do a dance track. You just
I
go,
need I need an
"Roar!"
I need an interpretive dance
Yeah.
of me just going, Green Man was never a pagan god. Green Man was never a pagan god. He was invented in 1939 by Lady Raglan. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Um, so what then, what evidence do we have for breach in general?
The person or the god, the saint or the god,
It's a great question, Mark.
goddess.
That's a great question.
Uh, yeah, it's great. Well, given that I think you've mentioned that we have writings from Patrick, but not from her, we don't have any. Is that is that reasonable?
So we do there is a lot of obviously questions about this
Yes.
because as we said, so is the goddess name just a title? Is
Uh-huh.
breach just appropriated from the goddess?
Yeah.
So there is the evidence for this from her name. I mean, the name Brigid comes from the Proto-Celtic Briganti, obviously, meaning
Hmm.
exalted one or high one. Sanus Cormac says that the goddess, obviously, like we said, was the daughter of the Dagda and the wife of Bresh, and that she had the two sisters. But the problem is, like I said, that this was a title that was given
Hmm.
to many gods. So was it a title that was also given to the Abbess of Kildare? Was that actually her name?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
don't know. Some claim that her name has something to do with the sacred fire that is at Kildare Abbey today, leading to the speculation that Bridget might have been an ancient dawn goddess. But the problem with that is uh, Bridget was not linked to the sacred fire of Kildare until the 12th century. In Ireland
Ah.
in the 12th century, there was a church reform,
Hmm.
as there was in much of Europe. And the most notable mention that we have of Bridget's sacred fire at the time comes from my good buddy, Gerald of Wales, who cannot be trusted in anything he says because he's a frickin' liar. He claimed that 19 nuns kept the fire of Kildare going in honor of Bridget,
Uh-huh.
but the saint. But before this, there is no mention of Bridget's fire, though people now claim that it goes back to antiquity. We just don't have it. And this led people to think that Imbolc was probably one of the old fire days. But again, we don't have any evidence for that.
Hmm.
So, do we take good old Jerry on his word? I can't answer that question because my man lied about a lot of stuff. So, we do know that, like I said, we do have evidence that there was no fire before the 12th century. That's about it. That's all we
And
have.
also, it's you know that you've got that sweet, sweet pilgrimage money, haven't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
He got it
mm,
from the werewolves of Ossuary
exactly.
after he healed one of them.
And they went,
Yeah,
"Oh, my
exactly. Yeah, and then they
poor."
brought him
Yeah.
to Ossuary to meet their king, and they all had a
Yeah.
very nice
Yeah.
lunch together. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, so obviously weather. So, Mark, when is St. Bridget's Day?
It is yesterday.
Yes. So, St. Bridget's Day is on February 1st.
Yes, as of day of
And
recording it. Oh no! Oh,
and
February 1st. Oh,
yeah.
2 days ago. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so is that where we are today? Yes.
Yes, the 3rd of February. Yeah.
It ushers in the beginning of the spring season in Ireland. On the eve of the day is Brigid Night or Bridget's Night, and it holds more importance in terms of customs because you take your bridges, obviously you make your bridges crosses, you hang them up, you make your bridogs, you put them
Hmm.
outside, you put out your ribbons and your blankets, and you wait for a breach to come.
Hmm.
And really, it was in the 18th century where Bridget's Night became a grand affair. People would make meals. Everybody would celebrate. You would put out a little milk and cookie for Breach and and wait for her to come. And she would come and rest herself at your house and bless your house, and then she would move on to somebody else. Obviously, there were processions of biddy boys and Bredog processions. Obviously, people went to Holy Wells. They still do. The
Hmm.
brat breach were collected from outside the house and then used for healing throughout the rest of the year. Bridget's Day is also a time for divination because, like I say, it is the beginning of spring. It's the beginning of the farming year, especially with regard to weather lore. And the general
Hmm.
feeling was that if there was good weather on Bridget's Day and animals came out from their dens, bad weather or more winter would follow.
Okay. Okay.
In the 20th
Interesting.
century, the Cailleach, really the hag, the winter hag, she was originally a hag spirit from Ireland who ended up becoming this great mythological figure as the person who walks around on Bridget's Day with a bundle of sticks under her arm. And she's the person now is the great personification of winter. And there is a story now that this is again a 20th century invention, a story
Hmm.
of she and Breach being sisters and one handing over part of the year to the other.
Okay, that's quite
Yeah, I
nice.
quite like that myth. I mean, like I say, it's
Yeah.
modern, but it's a quite nice story.
Hmm.
The same thing with the Holly King and the Oak King. That was invented in the 1970s. But I like that story. I think it's
Hmm.
interesting that they have taken these figures and now they're like, oh, yes, this person is the personification of one season, this person's the personification of another season, and one hands over the one half of the year to the other. And
Hmm.
even though Brigid's Day has been celebrated for a very, very, very long time, it was only made an official holiday in Ireland in 2013. And
Okay.
it is now an official holiday in Ireland forever,
Cool.
as should be
Forever.
forever. So, since talking about the 2nd of February, Mark, what is
Yeah.
Candlemas?
Oh, I thought we were going to get to the other thing. Candlemas is it.
Mark is having
Oh,
a brain fart.
I am having a brain fart. Yes. Well, I know it's the name of a university term if you go to certain types of universities.
It's also the name of an
Um.
old school band.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
school metal band. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um. I don't know. I don't know. Is it to do with candles or not? Oh, it is. Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm going to give you the point, obviously, because I literally do not know. But
Well,
yeah.
Candlemas is a Christian feast
Hmm.
on
Well,
the
yeah.
2nd of February, obviously, because Mass, right?
Yeah.
Honoring the purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary and the presentation of Christ in the church. The festival has
Oh.
been celebrated since the 4th century at least and is mentioned by many, many early pilgrims going to Jerusalem. The
Mm.
holiday was established 40 days after the day of Christmas to honor Mary's purification, obviously 40 days after childbirth.
Uh-huh.
And this became the conclusion for the Christmas season. So traditionally,
Oh,
today that day was the day. Candlemas is the day that you would take down your decorations. You would throw out your some places they burn the Christmas trees. Some people just threw them out. But it is the at the end of Christmas. That is it. It's done.
interesting. Interesting. Is uh uh is there an argument therefore that today should be when shops start putting out Easter eggs?
Oh, they've
Because
already started. Well, here they've
yeah,
already
they've been
started. It's ridiculous.
yeah,
They
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 started
put out they
in
put out
yeah,
Valentine's chocolate before Christmas.
that's just depressing.
I know. It's what it is.
Yeah,
Listen, I've stopped raging against it because I just get more Reese's now.
yeah.
But for Candlemas, fortunately, I wish we had Candlemas chocolates, but we don't. But because of lambing season and because the Bible links lambs to woman's purification,
Hmm.
lambs have become associated with this holiday completely independently of Imbolc,
Okay.
completely independently. Um, and while there are many people who think they're the same festival, they are absolutely not the same at all because Ireland celebrates both. They celebrated both Saint Brigid's Day in Bullock and they also celebrate Candlemas, and the holidays
Yeah.
have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. Um, so where did the candles come from? That's a wonderful question. It's probably to do with the returning of the light for the year.
Hmm.
Candles became a main feature of the mass part of the holiday. Some people believe that it came from Simeon, who said that Jesus was a light unto the Gentiles. By the
Okay.
7th century, though, the lighting of candles during the purification mass was the principal way to mark the holiday and possibly, like I said, possibly a way to mark the return of the light for the new year. By the 9th century, helped along by our good buddy, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, the name Candlemas stuck. So if this holiday had a different name, if whether it was just called the Purification of Mary or whether other people still call it different things, but Candlemas is in English is what it now is. And despite what Protestants believe, there is no pagan holiday
No.
associated
Mm.
with Candlemas at all.
Mm.
Roman or otherwise, there was some modern nonsense that they said that there was a Roman candle festival. There's absolutely no such thing whatsoever.
Ah,
Um,
but there are Roman candles.
let's not, Mark. Let's not.
Okay, sorry.
Here is the question I think you were waiting for, Mark. Ready?
Yeah, yeah.
What is Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day is a fantastic movie starring Bill Murray, written by the wonderful late great Harold Ramis. Yes, his name literally came to me as I said it. Um, and did you know, fun fact, in the film, supposedly, this is according to Harold, the character who is stuck in the time loop is likely there for 10,000 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what he said. I reckon it was probably about 10,000 years. And you can sort of see it because Bill does eventually know when gusts of wind are going to occur. He's so, he's literally he's so in had this day imprinted on him. Um, no, Groundhog Day is a celebration. Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, is brought out of his hutch, his hole, and is asked by an interpreter whether or not he sees his shadow. And if he sees his shadow, then we're going to have, or they are going to have 6 more weeks of winter.
Right. So,
Hmm.
but you know where it came from?
I think it came from Hungarian and other migrants to the US.
I wonder where you got that idea, Mark. Maybe you saw a
I
video on it the other
may, may,
day.
maybe I did. Yes, see a TikTok on a certain person's TikTok channel. Yes,
Yeah,
perhaps.
so it did. It came from the thing is that a lot of cultures, not only them, but a lot of cultures, because again
Yeah.
of Candlemas, and even the Irish, even Brigid's Day, like we said earlier, has a lot of weather lore associated with it because this is the beginning of spring and the beginning of the traditional farming year.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of weather divination. So, the very first North American Groundhog Day is mentioned. Puxatawney Phil is a little bit later, but the first one is mentioned in 1840. But we
Hmm.
do have written records, like I say, of all different types of animals predicting weather much earlier than this. The
Hmm.
custom of groundhogs or badgers and following them and looking at their shadow comes from German, Dutch, and Hungarian immigrants who were would have otherwise celebrated their version of Candlemas, but obviously in the States, Candlemas never really took on. Hungarian immigrants specifically had bears. In Hungary, they dress up as bears and they watch to see if the bears come out of their dens. If the bears come out of their dens, they think that winter is over. In
Hmm.
Croatia, Serbia, and Spain, the bear that awakens from its den and then returns to its den foretells another 40 days of winter.
Oh, okay.
In Ireland,
Okay.
it's the hedgehog that stays out of its den and foretells an early spring. In other
Mhm.
regions, they do serpents, foxes, essentially any animals who are coming out and going, "Are we done yet? Are we
Mhm.
finished? No." And then they go back in. And then there's another either 6 weeks or 40 days, depending on the tradition. It's all different. In Germany and Austria, this is Dachsday. And that's where we get the Dach is a badger, and that's where we get the whole Puxtawney Phil from.
Okay.
And like you said, his shadow forecasting 6 more weeks of winter. M Many regions across North America, and I think now even in other parts too, have their own mascots.
Hmm.
That do it. Here in Canada, we got many. We have Fred La Marmotte in Quebec.
Hmm.
We have my favorite though. We have Shubenacadie Sam in Nova Scotia. My favorite though is Lucy the Lobster. To be quite honest with you, I love her. And they have all there's now a forecast where you could see all of their predictions and all their little badgery faces, and then right in the middle is Lucy the Lobster going "Meow" with her claws. It's so amazing. I
Okay.
love it so much.
Okay.
Uh, Obviously, the track record is spurious,
Not
right?
great. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, or charts that have
No.
also because of everybody's forecasting in a different place, so the weather is different everywhere.
Yeah.
There are obviously, like
And
we said, there are charts that calculate their accuracy, but all of their handlers claim that their accuracy rate is 100%, which we know is nonsense. It's about
yeah.
50-50.
But also, but as you would expect, yeah. But also, to be fair, what do they mean when they say 6 more weeks of winter? Do they mean snow? Do they mean that you're just gonna feel a bit like wearing thick socks? It's subjective.
Well, yeah, like I said, it is -20 out here. So
Wow.
whatever that means,
Okay.
I will take it. I don't care.
No, no. Blimey.
Last question, Mark. Were any of these
Okay.
holidays based on a Roman pagan holiday?
Oh, I'm gonna say just because this is the safest option. Yeah, no.
You're not going to be mealy-mouthed, but no, no. Like I said, there was a nonsense that but some people claim that this was a candle holiday. There is no such thing. There are two Roman holidays. at the beginning of February, but none of them have anything to do with any of this. The first major holiday was a 9-day celebration of Parentalia,
Okay.
beginning on the 13th of February and ending on the 21st. But this holiday was about honoring the dead, specifically your own family. People brought garlands, wine-soaked bread,
Is
and
that
salt to
is that
family tombs for the
is that
manes.
like
The manes. The manes. What are the manes, Mark? Do you know?
show me the manis?
I wish I could. I wish I could have snapped my fingers and have them apparate. But
Ancestor for spirits, maybe.
yes, yes, that's
Yes.
exactly what they are. They're the souls of
Okay.
the dead that
Yeah.
hung around during this time of the year. And on the last day of Parentalia, there was a separate holiday called Feralia,
Uh-huh.
meaning everybody brought their offerings to honor the Manes and hoped that they would be appeased and not cause them any harm
Uh,
during the year. And obviously, the
w-
second holiday that we talked about when we talked about Valentine's Day, which has nothing to do with Valentine's Day, is the Lupercalia, which is on the
mm,
15th of February. And like we said, possibly named after a wolf festival honoring Lycian Pan, but we don't know. And the holiday was also called February and was celebrated to promote fertility. But like I said, the origins of this holiday are kind of weird,
mm,
and really don't have anything to do with Valentine's Day whatsoever. There's also another smaller holiday called Terminalia,
mm.
but that was on the 23rd, and it was in honor of the god Terminus. Ha ha ha. But yes, the is the god in charge of boundaries.
Yeah.
Neighbors would
Yeah.
share, again, it seems like it was more of a farming holiday because neighbors who shared property would celebrate one another and they would enjoy some lamb together, some lamb, honey, wine, and grain. And
Mm,
that's it.
okay.
So, yeah,
So,
a very lovely time had by all.
hmm. So is that where we get the word parent from? Then?
Parentalia, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And same thing. I thought you were going to ask, is that where we get the word terminus from? Like, yes, that is
Then it,
where
well,
we
yeah,
get
yeah,
the
well, yeah, yeah.
that is where.
I know, I offer some wonderful charm and slight comedy relief here, but you also have me on because I somewhat know something.
Actually, Mark, if you would like, this has nothing to do with anything, but if you would like to tell people, since you are an
Uh-huh.
archaeologist, where the word ostracize comes from.
Well, that comes from ostrakon,
Yes.
an ostrakon being a fragment of pottery upon which someone can incise, scratch the name of someone who they're going to vote for or against, put it in a pot, which isn't broken, presumably, and then the votes are counted. And I think the idea was that the broken bits of pottery were just so plentiful. It's kind of like us getting a scrap of paper, like a notepad, and just writing something down. Um, there was also an interesting aspect of people selling ostraca to the illiterate. So you might have someone who often it was to do with voting someone away, ostracizing them, getting them out of your town. And you'd have people going, "Oh yeah, definitely this pot, this piece of pottery here, this is for Bill, not for Ben." When actually it says Ben, not Bill, and it's actually Bill's friends who are trying to get Ben kicked out. So yeah, why did that come up?
Because you said I am a man who knows some things, and I knew you know the answer to that question.
Oh,
So
oh, I see.
give yourself
You.
an extra credit point, Mark.
Thank you.
So how did you do overall?
Yeah, this time not too bad. So I did 7 to your 2.
Oh, not so
Uh,
bad at all. Very good.
yeah, but again, you see, what the thing I love about these quizzes is that not only are you very generous when I give you a bullshit answer, or some sort of
Yeah,
like
but that's the best
shruggy,
part.
uh, uh, but also actually, what I like about them is the fact that you have this, or one has this ability to sort of feel it out, because often there are lots of crossovers and stuff like that. And yeah, this one particularly feels like a series of holidays that are, as you say, difficult to really tie down. So yeah, so there's room for feeling them, as it were. The vibe.
As a little bonus question, Mark, before since we are talking about spring festivals, it
Uh-huh.
just happened, but it does move around a lot. But what do you know about the Lunar New Year or the Chinese New Year?
I don't know much at all about it.
It's a big
Why?
thing here,
Mm-hmm.
and we just had here though it's celebrated for a whole week. It's not usually a whole week,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year, though it's celebrated widely throughout the East, Southeast Asia, and now all over the world, obviously. So much
Yeah.
like Imbolc or Candlemas, the Lunar New Year is a spring festival. And again, much like Setsubun as well. Like
Mm.
I said, it does move a lot. This year it's very early. It's in January because of how the lunar solar calendar worked out this year. Usually it's usually deep into February, but not this time.
Yeah. Mm.
And it is the first new moon after the new year of the Gregorian calendar.
Mm.
Legends say that the Chinese New Year began when the Nian, which is a double entendre because it also means a year, but it's also a mythical beast that's kind of like a halfway between a dragon and a lion.
Okay.
It lives under seas or mountains, and it comes to uh, attack people. And the legend is that people started wearing red, and they started leaving out food,
Yeah.
and they started lighting fireworks to scare it away. So that this
Yeah.
obviously this is a very lovely story. I love this story. But some people believe that this festival goes all the way back to the Dynasty, which is pretty cool. But it really began in earnest in the Han period.
Mm.
And that's when people started celebrating their ancestors, their parents. And by the Tang Dynasty, the custom of giving the gifts and the cards, the red envelopes,
Mm.
became
Mm.
very, very popular. During the Song Dynasty, fireworks and giving money to their children started becoming more popular. And all
Yeah.
of these
New Year
traditions have
money.
been with us ever since.
Yeah. Well, I here in Newcastle that we have a fantastic Chinatown, and they every year do the New Year celebrations, and you'll have uh, it's probably that creature, that sort of lion dragon, because people in the crowd, because everyone sort of turns up, not just people from the community, but from across the city, often turn up, and we've been there for a couple of occasions. And you'll have people from the local martial arts clubs who will do the puppeteering of this huge
Yeah,
uh,
the dragon
the
dance, yeah.
dragon lion thing, and they'll go because again, depending on who you ask, you get a different answer as to whether it's a dragon or a lion. Uh, and they'll go to different businesses, and when they get someone's door, the business will sort of open the door. The dancers go in, the snaky dragon lion thing goes in, dances around the shop, comes out again, and then they throw a cabbage
Yes.
into its mouth to sort of
Yes.
placate it. And inside there's this sort of like "Roy" kind of thing that happens inside because someone at the front is there tearing up the cabbage and then throwing it in the air
That's amazing. I love that.
as though the beast is sort of like, uh, wriggling and writhing while eating the cabbage. And lots of fun. And we had moon cakes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So with and the yolk of an egg is the moon inside for the New Year. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, mooncakes. Mooncakes are pretty popular here as well, but
Hmm.
those are more popular here for the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Okay.
And those are like there are all types of mooncakes, not just the one with the egg inside, but there are
Mm.
all kind. There's red bean, white bean.
Hmm.
But yeah, mooncakes are very prevalent in a lot of festivals, but they're you don't realize how filling they are, but oh man. You
Yeah.
eat one
Yeah.
and it's like they're like the lammas bread of the Chinese New Year. You eat one and you feel
Yeah.
like it fills the stomach of a grown person forever.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Mark,
I've never actually held a hockey puck in my mouth, but I think that's what it would be like. Yeah. They're
hockey
big.
books are
Yeah.
actually quite wide, so I don't think you'd be able to fit them in.
Oh,
They're
well,
about
yeah.
that wide.
Yeah. But it's that sort of, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yes, extra reading.
Yes, further reading.
Yay.
I you are your further reading, Mark, is The Son of Cormac.
Uh-huh.
The Breach the Woman by Neve Wycherley. And my favorite article of hers is Will the Real Saint Brigid Please Stand Up? Over at
Very
Maynooth
good. Very
University.
good.
Fantastic. I love it. And Body of a Saint, Story of a Goddess by the wonderful Lisa Patel. And the Between Two Worlds by the wonderful Catherine McKenna. And they're all brilliant Bridget scholars, and they talk a lot about this. If you want to read more about
Okay.
the Lunar New Year, the Land Museum of Anthropology has a wonderful article called "The History of Chinese New Year" that I recommend you read. So that's it. You did a great job, Mark.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
will be back next month with more obscure festivals for you, and we'll just keep getting more and more obscure to see how you go with these.